Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast. It is Friday, January 24th. The last week, I guess, has given us an opportunity to take a deep breath after the madness of coaching staff changes and such with football, and gives us an opportunity to give a sharper focus to the basketball program, which is doing pretty darn well. 16-4 overall, 8-1 in the ACC. And Chase Hunter, if you are not properly appreciating exactly what he is doing and how he's doing it in his final year, you're missing out. We got more on that and several other topics related to the basketball program as they get set to face Virginia Tech on Saturday. Article will be up later today at TigerIllustrated.com. My good friends Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold have been part of the podcast since the beginning, way back in August of 2018. They have an accomplished team of personal injury attorneys at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold based in Greenville. They are Clemson people, and their skillful attorneys have decades of experience in complicated litigation matters, taking a special interest in medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, and neglect, car accident cases that have left the individuals involved in serious trouble. For a free consultation at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, call 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com. That's P-A-R-H-A-M law.com. When you're ready for a complete renovation in your home or business, open the door to more with Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Their local experienced team will totally transform any room space, from beautiful floor coverings to construction to finished details. Harris handles every step of your renovation process, whether it's a kitchen or living room or an industrial or educational setting, like some of the positively stunning work they've done at Clemson University. Go to discoverharris.com and experience a total renovation transformation from Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Solero Communications, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Solero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Solero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Solero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Solero at solerocommerce.com. That's C-E-L-E-R-O commerce.com. All right, we gave Patrick Sapp a call this week because, man, he's got a son, Josh, who plays for Clemson. They've got some behind-the-scenes insight, Patrick does, into the whole, this new world of college athletics, pay for play, all that you don't really hear in the more surface level accounting of things. Really interesting stuff. Here we go. All right, joined once again by my friend Patrick Sapp. How are you doing on this lovely, blisteringly cold Thursday?
Man, I am doing good. I know we are complaining about the cold, but really, it feels like, man, this is the first time we've had winter in it seemed like 5 years or so. So, although it's cold, I'm enjoying it a little bit. I just hope we will get a little bit more snow. Mm-hmm. So I'll be happy with that, and I'm sure my youngest Miles will be happy too. Man, I'm living life, enjoying life, and business is good, and so good. Everything's good.
I had a joke yesterday that I put on our message board at Tiger Illustrated. You know, every time they close school, you have people, complaining. And, in my day, we walked, through 5 feet of snow, uphill both ways, all that stuff. And I just said, yeah, the school's closed today, and people are just soft. Back when I was growing up, I spent 10 hours a day boxing, and then I put in a little parentheses on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on Nintendo.
Yeah, we all had those stories, right? Walk 5 miles to school and cross the river and all these types of things. Had to kill and make my lunch on the way to school. And these kids are soft, but man, they are strong in a lot of other ways. So I definitely understand that.
Yeah, I mean, my point is, I remember myself and my friends being pretty dang soft when we were kids.
To our grandparents, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got to go further back.
Yeah.
All right, we were talking earlier, not recorded, and I'm like, man, this conversation needs to be recorded. We're talking about the state of. I got a lot of things I want to cover, but just the state of college athletics and sort of the velocity of things over the last 3 years. I mean, it's gone from, and your perspective is valuable, because in addition to being a former college and NFL athlete, you have a son who is a current college football player, and who has experienced these changes firsthand when it comes to being financially enriched by playing the game. But just sort of the brief timeline over the last 3 years, I mean, it went from, all right, NIL, it's basically, it's not pay for play. It's like, somebody goes and endorses a burger joint and they get free burgers, or they cultivate a brand on Instagram, their own personal brand, and they can profit that way. And that wasn't that long ago when that was and I'm not saying we're in the wrong place. I'm just saying that the definition of it has changed so profoundly and so rapidly that it's kind of jarring, I guess. So how do you sort of, I don't know, put it all into perspective, the last 3 or 4 years and how quickly it's gone, and to the point now where Clemson's starting quarterback is making significantly more than the highest paid assistant coach that just got here last week.
Right. I talked to a lot of people about this, and like anything, everybody has, their own opinions and thoughts and all of these things about, the state of current college football. And the game is over and it'll never be the same. And I'm not going to watch anymore. And I'm just like, relax. I mean, think about all the changes that we've had in collegiate sports. All the changes we've had when it comes to admissions of people into universities and going, crossing the racial lines and integrating and all these things where it'll never be the same. And if we have to be honest, is the game it's never been, in my opinion, as good as it is today. Even with the changes, the coaches that have gotten out of coaching because, oh my God, I can't deal with, parents talking about money or players talking about money. And so I need to step down, i.e. Nick Saban in a lot of ways, right? But let's be honest, the schools that have been rich in its support before we come to this space have been the schools that have been the most successful. I mean, I don't know how much money probably was coming into Alabama's program and how much money they were spending on football. I know they was doing it way more than a lot of other universities. And that affected the games that they won on the field. And so it's just a new day. And so I just tell people that are against it or think it's killing the game that it's not. Relax. You think about the national championship game this year. You had Ohio State, which has been, they've been on top of college football up and down over the years. And then you got Notre Dame that was in there. But you didn't have, Texas A&M, they're spending tons of money into their programs. I know Ohio State spent a lot into what they're giving players, but Alabama wasn't there this year. Georgia wasn't there this year. And so I think the portal has somewhat made it, I don't want to say even a playing ground, but it has made it where schools can go from one season to the next being significantly better. In some ways, they could be significantly, worse, which to me lends, football games being better. I want to see new schools, SMUs, and have a chance to play in front of national audiences. So I love that. And as we talk about the money aspect of it, that the young men and women are able to get now, man, I applaud that, and I'm happy for that because, as you know, and as many of us know, the athletes have been shut out of it for so long, and now they have a chance to complete in that, and I think it is deservingly so and rightfully so. So I think it's good. Yeah, it's been fast and there's been a lot of changes, and so with that, everybody's going to push back, and it's not going to be perfect, which is not perfect. I would admit that, but you have to start somewhere. And so you're seeing the changes now to where the schools are in the know of paying athletes and not just NIL or outside collectives. You know, they brought it in-house, which now they have a better opportunity to control the things that they're doing.
Yeah, Ohio State winning it all really solidified this notion of, yep, you know, it's a $20 million roster, and yeah, that, you know, the whoever spends the most money is going to be the last team standing. And I mean, I think that's somewhat valid, but emphasis on somewhat.
Yes.
Because, I mean, first of all, it's almost always been the case pre-pay-for-play that the last team standing has the most talent, you know, like the most
Right.
5 stars or blue chips or whatever. But when I look at Ohio State, at what unfolded during the playoff after the excruciating loss to Michigan, that was more than just talent, in my opinion. It was staying healthy, the right players staying healthy, while other playoff teams had some really significant injuries in the wrong places. It was also a product of their retention, something we've seen the last month with Clemson, retaining their best returning players who actually have done something. Not that doesn't cost money. Of course it does. And also, you know, I know people just hate on Ohio State and think Ryan Day is evil and their fans are horrible. So people might be upset with me when I say this. But what I saw, you don't do what they did. You don't turn around and do what they did after losing to Michigan if you're not made of some strong stuff culturally. And if you don't have some really strong resilience and togetherness. You agree with that?
Matt, totally. I mean, you know, we're speaking the same language. Is that, I mean, you look at it, if we want to compare, you know, college football is the NFL. Well, there's a lot of NFL rosters that are maxed out financially and their salary caps are maxed out, but they're not winning championships. And in college football, we seen years ago when Texas A&M signed the most 5 stars ever. Did it translate to the field? No. So a coach still has to have a presence there. You still have to have good coaching. You still have to build a culture. You still have to have players that are the majority of the players that are in your program that are playing on the field on Saturday. Has to be those kids that have been in your program 2, 3, 4 years in order to win. You can't have a roster of, you know, 11 starters all been there 6 months in your program and go win a national title. It just doesn't work that way. And so that is what people are missing. And I think that's the difference. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about, you know, the job that Graham Neff, you know, has and how tough that is. But I think having a coach like Coach Sweeney, if we're just talking about football in itself, that is a culture builder that has a pulse with his players, is why you see Clemson continue to retain the majority of their kids. and because of just the relationship itself. Now we are paying our guys, and we are competing with a lot of universities with the amount of money that we are paying our guys, and so that definitely has to be, and it is, and in the relationship that the coach have with his players, got to be one of those that is great and real, and so I think now being what we're doing, I think you'll see Clemson compete again and again and continue to be one of your top programs.
It's also such an evolving thing. We're so early in the process that coaches out there, schools out there are going through some trial and error. So, like, you look at Ole Miss, that's really one that really stands out to me. Maybe Ole Miss and Miami, teams that spent a buttload on talent. But with Ole Miss, I'm guessing that Lane Kiffin is now sitting there thinking, and is probably getting criticized, like, hey, man, it can't just be the transactional. It can't just be going out and getting the best two running backs, quarterbacks, receivers that haven't been a part of the program. That you need to, high school recruiting has to be a significant part of the foundation for those long-term benefits that you mentioned. Florida State and Mike Norvell, as much as they were celebrated as being the portal kings a year, and in 2023, as much as that Florida State Clemson game in Death Valley was viewed popularly as a referendum, on portal versus no portal, I think the broader view of it since then, the bigger picture indicates, no, you can't ignore the portal. I mean, Dabo hasn't been perfect, of course, but you also can't. It has to be kind of a mix of the cultural and the transactional.
It has to be. I mean, if I only have a 6-month relationship with a kid that has transferred in my program for a transaction, and that transaction is money and the 1 or 2 years I may be in your program to go to the NFL. So you think about that transaction, a lot of that is about me, how much money I can get, and my playing time, and the plays that I make to get me to the next level. Well, I don't have a lot of time to become a part of your culture in that equation. It's about me. So I'm coming there and I'm going there and I'm going to play. And a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. So that history, those ups and downs that you go through with a player that you've had for 2, 3, 4 years, those moments to where I've had the correct behavior, the discipline, the hard work, all of that is missed. And I know this for a fact, being a former player. When it comes down to 3rd and down 1 or goal line stands, or, a game where, physically you're getting beat and it is a war, when you got to go dig deep into an area to get the best out of you, to get the remaining what's left in the tank, man, I got to know that my coach cares about me. I got to know that my teammates care about me. I have to care about them. It has to be important to me because I got to go into another mental space. But when that connection is not true, I'm not able to pull that. I'm not able to do that. And so that is what you're seeing in those times when it comes to the negative side of the portal, the overuse of the portal, and the overdependence on the portal, is when you get into those situations to where you fail. And so I think, coach philosophy with it now, he has it right. I think he's in the right place. You feel your depth. If you're liking at a position to where talent-wise, then you add talent to it. If you're missing a quarterback or some gappage in there to where you thought a player was going to be really good, that's a young player, but you think his ceiling is very low and you need to go out and find more talent, that's what the portal is used for. in our situation. Now, there's a difference, Larry, when we talking about East Carolina or schools on that nature. If I can go get 5 or 6 guys a year out of the portal that played at West Virginia or Clemson or Notre Dame or wherever it may be that played on that level, that's willing to come down and play on my level, I'll go get those kids all day long, to add more to my roster. So 2 different scenarios.
We've learned so much over these 3-4 years, because there were notions at the beginning that a lot of people had of, you're kind of scared of a transfer because, what is that going to do in our locker room? Is he going to be truly invested? And you add the money part of it to it, and there was a lot to be scared of. Not saying everybody was scared of it, not saying you were. I had some reservations. I had some misgivings, admittedly, full disclosure. But I've learned so much. We've learned so much, it seems like, over the last few years, watching just Clemson basketball, Patrick. And I don't know how closely you've been watching.
Oh, I watch it, yeah.
But let's just take this year. Like, if you parachuted in, or if you were overseas or something, you knew nothing about Clemson basketball, and you came and you watched them closely this year, the first thing you would notice would be Jaden Zachary. Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, oh, that dude's a 5th year. He's been here for forever. He's a Tiger, for life. The way he plays and the impact that he has, the positive impact he has on the chemistry and sort of the bond that team has. Victor Locken, same thing. Joe Girard, same thing last year. So it is entirely possible to find guys not only who are not going to be a detriment to your locker room and your fabric, but who are going to strengthen it in significantly. And not to dominate this, not to get too long-winded, but Will Howard, Ohio State's quarterback, I mean, did you see any lack of investment with him, lack of passion, or Riley Leonard? I mean, Riley Leonard is going to be Notre Dame for life. Same with Will Howard. So I don't know. It just, again, we've learned a lot. I don't think enough to have it all figured out, but we know more now. And I guess you have to point out, yes, there are cases of portal acquisitions that totally blow up in your face, of course. But if you do it the right way, in terms of evaluation and identifying what's between the ears, you can get stronger.
And you have to, and in particular, you mentioned Clemson basketball, but think about the consistency and the years of players that are surrounding the players that we brought in. Our guards have been there, 5 years, 4 years now?
6 with Chase Hunter.
Yeah, Chase has been, Brad has been here at Clemson, over a decade. I mean, the staff has been mostly the same. Dick Bender's been here that long. And so you have, again, the nucleus and you have the culture. And you can't underestimate and understate that those guys have hit it through the roof with the transfer portal. So I think Brad has a great understanding of the kids and the young men that he's bringing into that program, not just from a talent standpoint, but will they assimilate into my culture, my coaching style? Would they gel with the players that we have on this team this year and next year? And I think he and his staff has done an awesome job to really understand who to bring into the program. So you have to give the coaches credit on that as well as the young men.
We've gone from a few years ago, $100,000 seemed like a lot of money for some of these high-level athletes to be getting paid, and now it's you got millionaires on the team. Right, exactly. I want to get a real world sort of insider view. You're a dad. Your son is a part of this. He, I guess, at some point after the season, did his own negotiations and got a deal signed. I don't want to get into any private stuff that's too private,
Right.
but I just want a general sense of, from the outside looking in, a lot of people, I think, not unfairly think, wow, man, what when a kid has, when a 19 or 20-year-old has $1 million in his bank account, or even a few $100,000, what does that do to his head? I know that if you put that, if I had a bunch of money when I was a sophomore in college, I'm not sure I would have gone to class. I'm not sure I would have been as eager to go to class, because you're a kid and your brain is still, developing, and you don't have proper perspective and context of what it all actually is and means. What's your perspective on that? As Josh is at a stage where he's, getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's surreal. I would tell you that, Larry, and going through it as a dad and kind of being in that conversation and negotiating conversation with Clemson, with Josh, and his money from Collective was very interesting. It reminded me, not to go into great detail about it or anything, but it truly reminded me of me going through my NFL contractual conversations and those things that my agent and I went through with San Diego and with Arizona. And what's a player's value, what his worth, what he's contributed, or what they feel like a player can contribute. All of those things goes into, what a player demands from the universities, from the collectives, the internal collectives at the school, and that is kind of truly how those numbers are reached. The other influence into that is, hey, other schools are interested in your players now.
Mm-hmm.
So from a people that are, say, hey, this is crazy. Schools are coming after your starters. It's not the kids that are, angry because I'm not playing or not getting enough playing time. It's, you have to protect your starters every 12 months. And the negotiation of how much they are worth in that. And it's as simple as, hey, the University of Florida offered me $900,000 or $1.1 million. What, can you guys match that, come close to it, or exceed that? And if there's no relationship or a bare relationship, or some of it's just monetarily, period, which I can understand really what that feels like. If a team says, another university say, well, give you 900, and then Clemson say, well, we'll only give you 300. Who would not take the 900?
Right.
I mean, that's just, and so, that's the reality. But I would say that as far as, fortunately, my son has me, and, we are definitely taking care of his money the right way. He's definitely with a financial planner, accountant, and all those surrounding things to truly educate him, not just manage this for him, but actually educate him along the way so that he truly understands that. And me and him talk about what's important and not important about how you spend your money, so that he can have those good habits early. Unfortunately, all kids don't have that situation. So the university, or I should say, we're talking, specifically about football. then the coaches and the support staff and all those people got to wrap their arms around those young men that are in those situations so that they don't go and do crazy things with the money they have. And man, I explained it as simple as this to my son, like, this is the only time in your life where you will make a significant amount of money with no financial responsibility. And so in that, the money that you make in college should triple by the time you leave out of there, because you have no expenses. And this is the only time that it will ever be in your life. And so let's get a head start on life in that. And so that's kind of where our conversation started from, and how we are understanding how he needs to invest this money and take care of it in order for it to grow and for him to have a huge head start in life, regardless of what happens. If he has a chance to play professionally, never. He's in a great situation starting out. So,
one of the conventional arguments in the debate that goes back, a long time is, 98% of these kids aren't going to go to the NFL, so therefore the education and a degree is the importance of that is self-evident. That's true. But the other side of that it didn't really dawn on me until the last couple of years, is that means 98% of those guys are, for those guys, college is their only period of earning power as it relates to what they're really good at. Football,
yes,
or basketball, whatever. So that has to be part of the discussion too, the philosophical, legal, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I would add to that too is your value and your brand is at the highest.
That's right. Yeah.
When you're playing, and you mean to tell me I can't take advantage of that, but everybody else can? And so I don't think people look at it like that. It's the same way when I was an NFL player, my brand was at its highest. So that's when people wanted access to me, and I could get access to just about anybody. And so you have to use that, and you have to be in a space where you can use that. And so people, it's a lot of people that are angry, that are indifferent about college athletes getting paid. And everybody I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people use the scenario and the situation. You're getting a free education. So let's really break the truth down about what a free education is. And let's look at the graduation rates. Let's look at the academic challenges, but also the accomplishments these kids are making. We'll just take Clemson. I know Clemson is a different animal than what a lot of other universities are, but a lot of this I hear from Clemson fans about how screwed up these kids shouldn't get paid. They get a free college education. Well, it's not free, but it's been free for the folks that all can benefit from it. So if you take a college athlete, you can't work and earn. Now, let's face it, most people that come from the economic background of these young men and women, if they are, or we'll just use the term, just a student or whatever, a non-student athlete, you can go to school and work at the same time to help with your expenses. So we take that away by giving them a scholarship. Okay. And so they don't come from those financial backgrounds to where everything is just okay. A lot of these situations, not all, are in situations where parents can't truly help into the experience of giving them just money, right? Access money to take care of needs. Scholarship don't take care of everything. And then the time that it takes to be a football player at Clemson is a full-time job. So the networking aspect, these kids never experience. They can't really go do the internships because if you want to compete on the field, you got to be the Clemson all year round. You got to go there in the summertime. You got to be on campus in the summer lifting weights and working out. For the majority, or it looks like you're not committed, or it looks like you're not working. So you got to stay attached for 12 months. And on top of that, how can we truly justify the salaries of coaches now and then say a kid don't deserve anything outside of the scholarship? I mean, coaches make what, 11, 12 million a year?
And even then the cut, it's not like the salary is the only thing. People are like, if a player's getting paid, well, now he needs to pay for his school. Well, a coach, they get free cars, they get country club memberships. I mean, if you look at they get 10 tickets, boxed seats to game. I mean, there's the list is long.
You think Clemson had a history of helping, our head coaches with their homes, properties.
Yes.
So that's exactly right. So we look at that, we can say, well, Coach Sweeney has impacted all of the upstate of South Carolina. And that's true. But did Coach Sweeney do it by himself? And he will tell you no. Without the players that he's had that have played at Clemson, without the C.J. Spillers, the Taj Boards, the Trevor Lawrences, the ETNs, the Newt Hopkins, you can go through the infinite list, Cade Klubnik to Peter Woods to, Josh Sapp, Antonio Williams, Tyler Browns, all these kids that are playing this program. It's all a unit. So you can't justify and say this is okay here, but this is not okay over there. And this whole thing started by just saying, we're going to allow these young men and women to earn money through their name, image, and likeness, which is fair. My mom gave me my name. My dad gave me my name. I should be able to use my name for the accomplishments and the compliments I make in life to be able to impact myself economically. I mean, that is America times 10, America at its core. And so to deny that was always wrong. And we got to be real about that. And now we haven't. Now, the pendulum swung wide open, but now we're starting to get our arms around it. And we're starting to better manage it. And I think as the years continue to go on, that will be the case. But if I'm just telling you, in today's world, like you said a couple of years ago, $100,000 was a lot of money. I remember when a coach making $5 million a year as a head coach, we were looking like, God dang, this dude is making $5 million. And now guys are making 10, 11, 12. And you have, when you had assistant coaches making $500,000 or $1 million, now they're making $2 million as coordinators. And position coaches are making $1 million. That is unheard of. So
go ahead.
If you got to be, if you're really looking at this thing with the right eyes and the right perspective, you got to understand these kids should be earning something. Or if you're not, you're just hating on these young kids. You just hating on these young men and women if you don't think that these kids and these young folks should not be getting paid something. You can't justify that to me.
I mean, really, you could look at it as simply as this is not a new the arms race, whatever. The arms race is just now with the talent, and it used to be And I think it all started around 2010. I could be wrong, but when the revenues just started, like, when rivers turned into oceans, like it was, I mean, they were having to invent ways to spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took the form of support staffs, you know, growing and growing and growing and growing. Analysts everywhere you looked. Of course, coaches getting paid gobs more than they used to. You know, the facilities, like, there's a reason that, you know, coming up with a nap room and a barbershop and all that doesn't happen under the current model, you know.
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
You're right, and I think that's what a shift is going to be. Money will be going into the players and not into the facilities changes as much, because that was the influence on the players in their minds was facilities. And that is how you recruited, through facilities. The model has changed now to the money is on the emphasis on the emphasis is more on the money to the players' pockets. And that's how we're recruiting. But you're still spending the same money.
Yeah.
You know, you're still spending it. It's just a different way of doing it. You know, I remember being, you know, fundraising when I was working at Clemson, raising money, the West End Zone. You know, I raised, you know, that was kind of my first capital campaign project was the West End Zone. And we really built the West End Zone to compete with the other stadiums from a facility standpoint. And recruiting was at front and center and middle of that. And then we went to the indoor. And the indoor was, again, yes, it was needed for Clemson, but the emphasis of how we built it, the money we put into it, recruiting was at the center of it. Same way with, you know, with the football ops building now. A lot of those bells and whistles were recruiting.
Yes.
But and it was the recruiting of the top, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Ohio States. So you got to look at their facility. Hey, they building a new, you know, wing to their football op building. We got to build one too. And I think you will see that slow down, because it's literally like now, about every 2 or 3 years, 4 years, you got to build something new.
Yeah.
I think that will slow, and you will see that money going into the players' pockets more so.
The beauty of the facilities boom at Clemson happening when it did is that it put them in great shape. Like, there's a lot of schools out there that aren't, you know, that are still trying to upgrade their, you know, facilities, modernized or whatever. But here's the problem. Like, in a perfect world, you would tear the model down and build it from scratch, rebuild it from scratch based on the current realities, on the reality that the people on the field are now paid. And, you know, your head coach would be making like $1 million instead of 11 or 12. Your assistants would be making, you know, 200,000 or 300,000. But that's never going to happen. Like, somebody would have to, nobody's going to blink. You know, Tom Allen, as much as we talk about, oh yeah, in the future it's going to be a lot different. You're not going to have these huge buyouts anymore because the buyouts don't make sense. Well, Tom Allen's contract that he just got, and I'm not criticizing them for giving it to him because that's how they got him. It's $1.92 million with this. It's the same structure as we saw, you know, in contracts, coaches' contracts under the old way of doing things. So I don't know how it. I mean, it's not like Dabo is going to be like, okay, I'm going to trim my support staff in half voluntarily, you know, so we can adjust to these realities. Although we have seen coaches elsewhere, Brian Kelly, Mike Norvell, you know, voluntarily giving up some of their salary, but those coaches are under the pressure of being shown the door.
Right. right? They was kind of forced to be a team player. And I would say this is valid. Coaches, in my opinion, maybe I'm one of those rare people, but, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way. I don't know, but I think they earn what they're getting paid.
Sure.
I mean, I really do, because, people were killed to have their jobs. So what they're doing is their passion and their loves, and they're getting paid, man, excellent money for that. But you have to, like everybody probably look at, is you have to look at what they're bringing to the fan base and to the athletic departments, to the universities, and the product they put on the field that people want to see and watch. And a lot goes into that. And so, if the money's there, trust me, if it wasn't there, they wouldn't be getting paid that money. And that has always been our argument as to, man, if we able to go from 0 to 90 miles per hour with paying these young men and women the amount of money we paying them, that tells me that money has always been there. And that opportunity has always been there. We just wasn't doing it. And so that is what we have to be honest about. We're not going to pay money we don't have. And that's
going back to the negotiations, just a window into what that's like. Dabo doesn't really involve himself in the number talks. It's really more Jordan Sarles and others. That's my understanding.
Yeah, Coach Sweeney stays away from that, and I understand why. I would do the same thing. He's not a part of that because he has to coach, and the coaches aren't a part of that. Which is, again, I understand, because everybody's not going to make the same amount of money, and it's not going to make sense to every situation. Some folks are always going to get less money than they think they should, and somebody else shouldn't be getting it. So coaches staying out of it keeps the true player-coach relationship there. And it's the same way with the NFL. The negotiators I had in the NFL, coaches was never part of that. The head coach was not a part of that. It was the GM and their staff that negotiated those contracts. And so the coaches, I'm sure, have their opinions and thoughts like everything else. But they are not a part of that process, and I think that is absolutely the right way to do it.
Upstate foodies, want to take a moment to talk to you about our favorite taco spot, Willie Taco. 5 locations across the upstate. This award-winning team has been serving up fresh taco fusion for a solid decade now. The chefs at Willie Taco utilize the freshest, most creative, and sometimes unexpected ingredients in their kitchens. Come see why Southern Living, Garden and Gun, and Food and Wine Magazine are raving about Willie Taco and their signature offerings, such as their Southern Tide, crispy avocado, Nashville hot chicken tacos, literally flavors you will not find anywhere else, folks. And don't forget about the cocktails, super fresh margaritas, ice cold cerveza, and over 80 tequilas served up daily from behind the bar. So don't wait, folks. Your Willie Taco Familia is ready to serve you up their twist on funky, fresh fusion. It's the Willie way. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith & Archambault. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Want to share a quick word about Founders Federal Credit Union? If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Its office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. People, Dabo's critics are like, "Oh, wait a minute. I thought he said he'd go do something else if pay for play ever came." And my first response is, okay, that was, 10 years ago. That was a different galaxy from where we are now. And if I were Dabo, and I got that question, I would ask the questioner, "Hey, have you ever changed your mind about anything?" But my feeling, this is a feeling, is that the educational component is so integral to his beliefs, his what he's rooted in, that if that ends up no longer being part of the equation, that's when he decides to do something else. Or if he spends years grooming a quarterback like Cade Klubnik, and then once that quarterback shows he's ready to take off, he leaves. I'm sorry, ready to take off, sort of on the field. Ready to become an elite player, as Klubnik showed over the toward the end of last season, and then he just takes off for a better offer at the drop of a hat. That's when Dabo would maybe get close to hanging it up. What's your? I mean, nobody really knows, because that's not like Dabo's going to tell anybody. But your feeling on knowing him, and is that about what you think as well?
I don't even think in that scenario that he would, and I'll tell you why. In my opinion, knowing him the way that I know Coach Sweeney personally, and again, this is just me speculating on the person that I know, the man that I know. It is going to happen to Clemson one day that we are going to lose a significant player or player to another school for money. That's inevitably going to happen. That is the environment we in. And I think he will adjust from that. I don't think that would kind of start pushing him towards the end. It will happen. Clemson is going to sign a player through in that same scenario from another team that was a significant player for another university that we got and transferred to us because of money and opportunity. So that is going to happen. It's just a matter of when and when it's going to happen. But I would say for him, I think the job that he does with coaching is so fulfilling and real for him outside of the money that he makes that he will ever have a hard time walking away from coaching football, because he enjoys it. And I think he thinks, I've said this before, he's one of the few coaches that I ever would have coached with, because he sees a coach being an educator, and that position being an educator, educating about life through football, growing men into great men through football. And so when you kind of have that mindset about what you're doing, regardless of the external factors, money, and kids and all of the things that goes into the environment right now, man, that doesn't affect that passion you have for that calling you have for that, or any of those things that you have internal about the job that you do as a coach. So he can get fed up with things that surround it. He can get fed up with today's environment, but I don't think that's enough for him to walk away from the job, unless, he's going to walk away when he's done, tired, retired, when it's no longer passion for him, when it's hard for him to get up in the morning and go be excited about what he do. I think you'll see him leave at that point. But I don't think the external factors will be a part of that decision.
What in the world was wrong with the defense this past season? It was just, the Texas performance, I would argue, was worse than the 70-33 against West Virginia, just because of how many times the running backs were just untouched. Taking routine. Go ahead.
No. I didn't mean to cut you out, Larry, but being there in person, man, and being that's one of the, being at Texas, man, and at that stadium, and it's such a historical great football place. Like I was so excited and hyped for that game, man, in the beginning, And the way we started out, I was excited. But playing linebacker and playing, being a defensive player, nothing more demoralizing than when you cannot stop the run. I mean, it is. I'd rather a team throw for 9 touchdowns on me than to score 2, but knowing that we didn't stop the run all day. Like they just gashed us. But I tell you this, man, Texas really studied us as a defense. They studied our tendencies because the game plan that they put together was awesome in the run game. And now they play with great attitude, and them guys they were big up front. But if you looked at the way that they attacked us, they attacked our backside flow all game. And when we were too fast at the linebacker position, or when we was a little bit slow inside from the tackle position, when they started flowing the inside outside zone running games, and they were bringing the tight end back across to the weak side and run away from him, and run those zip motions and run the yo-yo motions and move the linebackers just a little bit, and we didn't get in our gappage the right way, they gashed us. And that's all they did in the run game. And it was brilliant in the way that we played, because if you look at us, most of the year we blitzed a ton and we played man a ton and we sent our linebackers a lot, right? And so you start moving on, establish if they're in man or zone, you run your little motions, you figure out they're in man, figure out they're in zone, you get to your run game, and that's what they did. And so I can't take nothing away from them. And we just didn't adjust enough in real time to stop them in the run game. And momentum is a real thing, man. If you can't counter the momentum, what happened against Texas is what you see. And we never countered it.
One of the big revelations or things I've learned the last few years is just how hard it is to play inside linebacker anywhere. Trenton Simpson was supposed to be the prototype when he moved from Sam to Will. He struggled there. Barrett Carter was a revelation there when he moved there to fill in for Trenton. I believe it was the Louisville game in 22. And then Barrett Carter is it fair to say now, post his college career, that he was much more cut out to be a Sam?
That is a great question. And I guess I would answer like this. No, I definitely think Barrett is an inside back.
Okay.
I think he will struggle in the National Football League being a Sam, especially if you went to like a 5-man front to where he had to play down on the tight end. I think he will struggle greatly there. So inside, having some protection from your tackles and ends, and being able to use your speed and your quickness to the football, I think is his best asset. Here's the thing, as I watched us defensively. So, and the Clemson has been a product of this for a long time. When we had Brent Venables, we blitzed. I mean, what is fair to say? 6% of the time, maybe on defense. Maybe it's more than that, right? So as a linebacker, when you blitz me, I don't have to read the box. I don't have to read run pass. Unless I got to peel and take a running back if it's pass, or tight end if it's pass. But other than that, I'm just going to get my gap, and I'm running, and I'm downhill, and I don't have to read out of it. Every now and then I might have to read out of it depending on the run play. So I never truly learned how to sit in there and read the guards and the center's blocking scheme, come down here, take a guard on or a center on, and get off and make a tackle. Because I don't have a lot of experience doing it. But when you play football at a high level, like they do, and you playing against tough teams and you getting into the playoffs, you cannot be in man for an entire game. Because now they got receivers over there that can take the top off of it. They got slot receivers that are pro guys that you can't just play man-to-man on the whole game. And now guess what I got to do as a linebacker? I got to read the run game. But I haven't done it much. So I think that's what you see when you see some of the guys struggle this year is in those times. And you don't get a lot of at-bats at it. And so in a game against a good offensive line, good running backs, great scheme, we get exposed a little bit there because of that. And that is where you're seeing some of the disappointment in how you see these folks play, these young men play in the jobs that they're doing. It's not that they don't have the talent. It's not that they aren't good linebackers. It's just the things that we ask them to do in times just doesn't match, and this doesn't match their strengths. And so we get exposed a little bit. It's the same way with, we've been a D lineman, and when you blitzing, you only have a gap. And so you hit that gap. But when I got to read high hat, low hat, when I got to read shoulders, there's a D tackle and D end in the run game, and I got to squeeze and I got to stay inside, and this gap can't get washed. All those things, when you're playing fast, you ain't got to do that. But when you're not, then now you got to play through those. And you get exposed sometimes. So that is where we got to have a great spring football plan, a great summer football plan, a great fall camp, plan to really get better at those skills. And, you don't do that by trying to win practice. You do it by trying through development of your kids. That's when you're going to see guys grow and get better and play at the levels that they can play at. But I don't think we will be in that situation again, Larry, with the run game. And we were thin at D-line too. We didn't have great depth there.
I'm not asking you to throw Wes Goodwin under the bus at all, but I think it's fair to ask and talk about what was the most, looking back, as we sort of evaluate that decision and the 3-year body of work and the flaws that were evident, particularly this past season. What was the biggest flaw with that, with the elevation of him to defensive coordinator, in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, man, I've known Wes a long time, and I think football is football. And what I mean by that is we know the cerebralness that Wes brings to the position, to defense, and the understanding of defense and the statistical mind that he has with defense. Goes without saying. One of the best in the business, and I think everybody understands and respects that. I know Brent Venable does, right? And so I think he was hired for that and on those merits, not on the leadership aspect of what it is. And so, again, I don't know these things to be factual. This is just my speculation. I think Coach Sweeney made that decision to hire him for those things, and then that he could, and that Wes would hire the staff that supports the areas he's not good at, and that's really being out in front and leading, the defensive side of your football team, which what a defensive coordinator does. And I think the flaw in that was thinking that could work from that aspect, that he don't have to be in that seat, but he could be that seat by job and title. He could be in that seat, and then other folks on defensive staff can sit the front and the center of it. And I think Coach realized that don't work. Your defensive coordinator got to be your defensive leader. And that's why I think you've seen more so than just the Texas game that they made a change there. But just the overall understanding of that is, man, this don't work in that aspect. My D coordinator got to be that guy that leads everybody from a defensively standpoint. And that's from a mindset, attitude, culture, identity, who we are, what we are as a defense, what's important to us as a defense, and lead that verbally, lead that from a presence, and lead that from the coaching standpoint. And I think Coach realized you can't separate the two. It has to be the one.
Patrick, there was a lot more I wanted to get to, but this conversation's gone for an hour. I'm sure you got better things to do.
Well, man, I always appreciate talking to you because I always know you fair and you real about what you're doing. And
thank you.
And you don't report BS. You don't report hearsays. You stay factual with what you do. So I don't mind giving you my time and speaking with you, man, because I think you do it the right way. So
thank you for the kind words, man. I always learn something from talking to you, so the feeling is certainly mutual.
Yes, sir, man. We Tigers are in there. I guess we're in our off-season winter workout now. I know Josh is excited about his opportunity coming up this year and getting on the field and contributing with these Tigers. And it's crazy how we're in another, kind of in that infancy of another season already, man. So, it's real. But I'm enjoying watching my men's basketball. Actually, man, I'm tell you this now. I haven't been to a women's game yet, but from what I've seen on TV, I'm loving it, brother. I like that.
They're looking good.
Yeah, I mean, what I appreciate that I haven't seen in a long time is that they play for 4 quarters. If they're winning, if they're losing, they're scrapping to the end. And when you have that tells me that's coming directly from your coaching. And so we might have landed on a good one, man. I hope he can be the next Jim Davis.
Isn't that wild? Like, as complicated as all this is, all the analytics and all the moving parts of a team and a game, whether it's football or basketball, sometimes it just comes down to it when you see it. It's that simple sometimes, right?
It is, man. And those things, that's important because, we all have to develop as players. You're not going to just hit it through the roof. And, even though this person may be rated high, there's still some challenges from going to one level to the next. But great effort, great attitude, and great energy should be innate in a good player. I shouldn't have to coach that into you. And so I just wanted to watch, and they scrap, and they got some more talent. But I'm just saying, what was impressive and stood out to me that I'm like, okay, we're on the right track, is they have scrapped the entire game that I watched, and I was impressed by that. That's what impressed me the most. So I'm gonna make it to a game. I don't know when and which one, but I'm gonna make it to some of the women's games this year. That's my promise.
And speaking of Josh, and also Olsen, Pat, Henry, the most impressive thing to me is how early in their careers they are willing and able blockers, which that doesn't happen a lot at the tight end position.
Yeah, and especially, Olsen is, man, to me, I mean, he done a heck of a job this past season being that, being that guy that get in there and muddy it up. And, and Josh understood, hey, that's the part of his game that had to grow, and it has grown. And, being a little undersized, that part of his game got to be dynamic. And so that's the way the willingness come from him, and that's where his growth has come, is because he understands that he has to do that. The receiving aspect of him and the route running and hands and making plays, man, he have that. He's one of the best at doing that, but his growth has been in the blocking game, and coaches have commended it on him for taking that on and doing that. And so I'm excited to see, what him and Olsen do this year when it comes to the tight end room, man, and making plays from that position. So I know they are excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it too, man. And this will be that year for him. So.
One of the casualties of all the football talk and all the stuff we just talked about, would love to learn more about what Patrick is doing non-football wise. He's the vice president of development for Rosemont Holdings, Score Hotel, also the CEO of Universal Therapeutic Services in Greenville, a company that partners with the community to provide human resource services, including mental health. This guy really has a passion for community service, and I want to make a point to make that a significant part of the conversation the next time we have him on. Appreciate his time as always. Also, thanks, of course, to our sponsors for helping make this happen. And thanks to every one of you for continuing to hit that play button. Appreciate it. Cheers.